Like I said, Madhava Kunja Vihari Kunja Vihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Madhava Kunja Yasodanandana Rajajanarandana Yasodanandana Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I don't know exactly where we are, but I have the first summary. Chapter 82 through 116. And then the first 8 of the next chapter. So I've been told that, yeah, it does match up to what I thought. Okay, good. So I think you all take part reading some of these.
Yeah.
Okay. 206, starting with text 82. To the end of the chapter, then the first 8 of chapter 12. Okay, thank you. Yeah, please. The cowherd men were pleased and thrilled for coming from small towns. They loved to see Mathura's sights and hear its bustling sounds. Some gopis, on the other hand, quite breathless from distress, showed pallid, ill complexions amid drooping braids and dress. Some other gopis, realizing that Krishna would soon depart, withdrew themselves like yogis, holding Krishna in their hearts. Still others thought of Krishna's charming speeches, smiles, and play. Remembering his lovely words, they fainted dead away.
Would Krishna leave them, even for the briefest span of time? The gopis could not grasp the most unwelcome paradigm. They come together, spoke of Krishna, shared their thoughts and fears, and sung to one another as they shed incessant tears. O Providence, you have a mercy. Is this the one? O Providence. O Providence, you have a merciless heart. You put friends together and tear them apart. You gave us, O Krishna, his charms and his smiles. Now you have taken him back like a petulant child.
Have come as a Krura whose name means not cruel, to reclaim our Krishna and make us all fools. We gambled our futures to join him and dance. Nakli Krishna won't even give us a glance. The ghosts of Mathura will greet the sun's rise with taste of the nectar that pours from his eyes. What use will he have for some bumpkins like us? When the honeyed words turn his pledges to dust.
There's a difference between
Yes,
like versions. If that's okay. Okay, either version. Okay. Maybe something.
As Krishna rides by, crowds will shout with delight, and all Mathura will rejoice in the sight. The so-called Krura won't care who survives, as he chaperons Krishna and ruins their lives. For elders just watch careless Krishna depart. O fate, all the men follow him in their carts. Let's stop him ourselves, we have nothing to lose. Our chaste reputations are already through. We've danced without Krishna, who smiled with such love and charmed us with glance and words and warm hugs. We'll die not to see him at dusk with the cows. Hear his sweet flute, look, he's leaving us now. And then the gopis all broke down and cried in great. And then the gopis all broke down and cried in great despair. Govinda, Damodar, Mukunda, wailing filled the air. Apura drove off anyway with both of Nanda's sons. The cowherd men left 2 in the carts with milk goods by the ton.
The gopis walked behind the fleet and caught Lord Krishna's eye. They stopped and stared in hopes he'd turn at least to say goodbye. When Krishna saw the broken-hearted gopis feeling spurned, he sent a messenger who said, "He swears that he'll return." The gopis stood as still as figures painted on a wall. They watched until the chariot could not be seen at all. Convinced their lord would not return, they sadly turned away and started chanting Krishna's pastimes every night and day.
Mathura and the brothers rode as swiftly as the wind. Arriving at the Yamuna, which cleanses one of sins, Mathura parked the chariot within a grove nearby. Both Balaram and Krishna drank and felt quite satisfied. Since pious Brahmins like Akrura take 3 baths a day, the boys stayed in the chariot and lingered while he bathed. Immersed in the clear water, chanting prayers with half-closed eyes, at once Akrura saw the boys, he thought in great surprise.
Now, how did my 2 passengers get here so suddenly? They must have left the chariot to swim nearby with me. Akrura turned and saw the boys still seated calm and cool. He turned again and squinting, looked more deeply in the pool. This time he saw Ananta's Shesha circled by a throng of gods and demons palmed together, praising him in song. That thousand-headed lord of snakes, whose skin was snowy white, resembled a great mountain range with peaks of dazzling height.
Upon the giant serpent's lap, Lord Vishnu lay at ease. His dark blue body had 4 arms. His reddish eyes looked with please. His facial features finely formed and large and lovely limbs. He showed the transcendental form and described the Vedic hymns. His neck was like a conch shell, graced with 3 successive lines. His moonstrung skin was draped with yellow silk and brightly shined. Between Lord Vishnu's massive chest and navel, dark and deep, his chiseled stomach, sharply rigid, looked like a banyan leaf. Banyan. Banyan?
His toenails glowed like petals from effulgent lotus blooms. His 2 right hands held conch and lotus, ready to give boons. His 2 left hands held disc and mace, so demons too were pleased. The Srivastya, Mark, and Kaustubha gem adorned his chest. Around Lord Vishnu, faithful servants prayed with all their hearts. The earth, tulsi plants, and other pious souls took part. His knowledge, wealth, renunciation, beauty, strength, and fame, personified as goddesses, sang out his holy name.
To see Lord Vishnu so directly brought Akrura bliss that overwhelmed his heart with lucid, loving consciousness and made his eyes turn fearful as it raised his body's hairs. Akrura joined his palms, bowed low, and spoke this thoughtful prayer. My Lord, when you appear within the universal void, your navel sprouts a lotus where Brahma is then deployed. Assembling all the energies that you, my Lord, supply, he engineers the universe as you have specified.
This universe of matter, though where you cannot be found, keeps every soul, even Brahma, perpetually bound. Philosophers, ascetics, priests, and others all may try, but devotees alone know you, for they are purified. When others worship demigods like Shiva and the rest, they mean to worship you, but somehow falter and digress. And yet, as every river moves from mountain range to sea, such people, by your kindness, come to you eventually.
The moods of nature, goodness, passion, darkness, ebb and flow, throughout creation, sizing every creature high and low. This every deva, man and beast, bewitched and stupefied, enjoys and grieves, as you perceive with your unbiased eye. Your endless strength and vital air are found within the wind. The 4 directions are your hearing, mighty gods, your limbs. The fire is your face, the earth your feet, the sun your eye, the ocean is your abandonment, your navel is the sky.
The trees are hairs upon your body, clouds your head of hair. Your nails and bones are mountain peaks that tower in the air. Your head itself is heaven, day and night, your blinking eyes, and semen from your genitals, the rainfall from the skies. As fish live in the sea or tiny bugs reside in fruit, the worlds of gods and men alike originate in you. To end the pain of pious souls who love to chant your praise, you come yourself so willingly in countless different ways.
I pray to you as Matsya, Lord of devastation's seas. I pray to you as Hayagriva, killer of the beasts. I pray to you as Kurma, holding mountains on your shell, and also as Varaha, who supported earth itself. You come as Narasimha to relieve your servant's fear. As Vamana, you step across the universal sphere. As Lord Parashuram, you slay the fallen royal class. As Rama, you slay Ravana, whose strength was unsurpassed.
I bow to you as Buddha, who bewilders foolish men. I bow to you as Kalki, bringing Kali Yugas in. Lord Vasudeva of the Yadus, you are surely best. Lord Shankarshan, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, my respects. Dear Lord, in this world, every soul becomes illusions. somehow. What is that one? Sir. Okay, sir. Okay. And walks the path of pleasure that concludes in death and birth. My Lord, I too believe in much that is not as it seems. My precious family, wealth, and fame are simply fleeting dreams.
Mistaking body for the soul and misery for joy, I've traded endless love of God for things that time destroys. I'm just a fool who leaves behind a lush, refreshing lake to chase a desert-born mirage and die from his mistake.
So weak is my intelligence, it cannot curb my mind. The slave of every urge, my shameless senses find. Although I can't approach you till my foolishness has ceased, I pray to think of you and serve your spotless devotees. All energy and consciousness, my Lord, arise from you. Why even nature cannot change your body's innate truth? O Lord of mind and senses, whom all beings live within, protect me, please. I bow to you again and yet again.
Eight more.
Mathura spoke with eloquence, yet even unafraid. Lord Vishnu disappeared just like an actor quits the stage. Mathura left the water, packed his gear, and shook his head. And as he reached the chariot, Lord Krishna beamed and said, "Have you observed some marvel? The expression on your face suggests you saw a miracle beside your bathing place." Replied Akrura, "All on earth and heaven and between exists in you. On seeing you, what sight have I not seen?"
At that, Akrura shook the reins, sped off without delay, and brought the boys to Mathura before the end of day. As they passed towns en route, Akrura saw the people stare, for Balaram and Krishna were sublime beyond compare. The coward man and Nanda, who had kept a steady pace, awaited Krishna's chariot outside city gates. The brothers joined the others, but before they moved ahead, Lord Krishna took Akrura by the hand and smiling said,
Akrura, take this chariot, go home and spend the night. A group will now relax a while and tour the city sights. Akrura gently shook his head and said, "That isn't fair. You never, Lord, abandon your devotee anywhere. Instead, please bring your entourage and grace my humble home. My dwelling, food, and family belong to you alone. Though I am a Pakka householder attached to pious deeds, my rituals are incomplete. Your feet are all I need."
In Bali, bathe your lotus feet, acquiring strength and fame, and in the end attain you in your own divine domain. That foot wash flowed as Ganga water straight to Shiva's hair, and freed the sons of Sagara from hell in great despair. Akrura prayed for him to stay, but Krishna gently said, "I'll come to you when I am through," and Kamsa is finally dead. With heavy heart, Akrura went to Kamsa all alone, reported that the boys had come and lumbered to his home.
Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapam Swayam Rupa Namani Tadati Svapadam Vancha Kalpachurvishya So there are two primary things that are going on here, encompassed within Krishna's going now to Mathura. So this is closing the chapter on Vrindavan, you could say, in one sense, Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, but Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Sorry. There's a mystery in that. Vrindavana Parajaja Padamekam Nagachyati. Krishna never takes a single step out of Vrindavan, but well, we just heard that Krishna got on a chariot and he took many steps out of Vrindavan. So it's a mystery. And these mysteries are, this is our Krishna conscious, you could say, philosophy or tenets are filled with various levels of depth. And within those depths, we see maybe storylines, but then we also see the truth within the devotees of Krishna, and then shining upon, well, what is actual Krishna's presence? What is his appearance? What is his activities? What are his pastimes? And even within those, there's so many layers upon layers upon layers, and so many things are going on. And Sukadev, he is giving one very quick, you could say, very quick, because he only had 7 total days, and this is toward the end now. So he had to very quickly tell about Krishna's pastimes to Parikshit Maharaj. But then the acharyas, they'll start unpeeling these layers upon layers upon layers. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dives into these layers. And so this opens, or the reading today opens with this topic that we've discussed before of Krishna, of being separated from Krishna. And I think the last time I gave class, we spoke about the gopis feeling separation during the rasa dance. And so Krishna is creating this separation. And Jiva Goswami, when he is telling this story, he's telling it through 2 reciters. Their names are Madhukanta and Snigdhakanta. And it's quite extraordinary, because this depiction that Jiva Goswami is presenting is these 2 reciters are telling Krishna's pastimes to the residents of Vrindavan as Krishna is there, and Nanda is there, and the Yashoda is there, and all the gopis are there, and they're reciting these pastimes one by one by one. Every evening they come together. And this is the eternal Leela of Krishna, that there's always Leela being shared with the residents of Vrindavan. So what's extraordinary is when they came to this part, they had to break into the story at least 3 or 4 times. I remember reading that, by the way, this is an old story. Don't worry, Krishna is still here. And because he could see the faces of Radha and Nanda and Yasoda when they're hearing Krura has come, the cruel person has come to take our Krishna away from us. They're practically, their bodies are transforming into this highest form of ecstasy, of this ecstasy of separation. And so these reciters, when they say, don't worry, this is an old story. We're not talking about, and Krishna is sitting, at least at one point, he was sitting on Nanda's lap, and Nanda is holding him tighter as the story is going, and so you can see this struggle. And so these sentiments that we just heard in poetic form of the gopis cursing providence, and what was the form of providence? What form did providence take? Akura. So they're basically cursing Akura. And so these sentiments, now I'm going to just completely flip this a little bit. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to the world, he appeared to give Krishna Bhakti to everyone. And who called him to come? Advaita chariot, and it was ardent, and it was plaintive, it was full of love. Please come. Everyone is suffering. Everyone is starving, you could say, for want of this love of God. And so then we hear all the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. But then at the end, as Advaita has asked Lord Chaitanya to come, he's also asked Lord Chaitanya to leave. And it's he does it in a very secretive way. I mean, he uses some codes or some metaphor. He says, "Oh, you're a madman. So listen to me, madman. You have come, and because of your coming, everyone else has become bahula as well, mad as well. And there's no more rice. There's nobody wants to buy rice in the market anymore. So this is quite a, Prabhupada translates this sonnet as equivocal, meaning it makes no sense on one level. Makes no sense. You're a madman. You've come and you've made everybody mad, and there's no rice in the market. So, and then he goes, his second sonnet, he says, "You're a madman. Listen, oh madman. You don't need to sell it. You don't need to be a merchant anymore, because nobody wants rice anymore, because everybody has it." So he's telling him basically that what you've come to do is to distribute love of Krishna through the chanting of the holy name, through the Sankirtan movement, through Rag, through the processes of devotional service. You've come and you've done it. You're successful. And you're so successful that everybody has it now. But now your purpose is no longer needed. You should go back now. And so at this, Lord Chaitanya immediately understood it, whereas everybody else says it was an equivocal sonnet that hardly anybody could understand what this meant. But Lord Chaitanya immediately at that point took these prayers by the gopis, and he entered into, you could say, a redoubled or a millionfold or a billionfold more mood of separation than he had before. I'll just read a couple segments from that. And it's very nice the way Krishna's Kaviraj, and also I think Kalakanta Prabhu did too, with the meter. The words of the gopis were sung in a different meter. And so Krishnadas Kaviraj also changes his meter, the regular meter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, to a different meter. And this is Antilila chapter 19. And so he says, what's the lead-in verse? Suddenly there awoke within Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the scene of Lord Krishna's departure to Mathura, and he began exhibiting the symptoms of ecstatic madness known as Urdghurna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke like a madman. Holding Ramananda Roy by the neck, he questioned Srup Damodar, thinking of him to be his gopi friend. So, because this is what the gopi, when they heard that Akrura had come to take Krishna, they were just holding each other. They were still shy though, because nobody knew outwardly that they had this, intense affection for Krishna. They were still trying to hide it, but then it broke out. And the breaking out will be mentioned in a moment. Just as Srimati Radharani inquired from her personal friend Vishaka, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, reading that very verse, began speaking like a madman. And so this is from This is one of the, no, this is not it. It's coming up still. The one about providence. And so he begins speaking, and then he says, or she says, because he's speaking in Radha's, my dear friend, where is Krishna? Kindly let me see him. My heart breaks at not seeing his face even for a moment. Kindly show him to me immediately, otherwise I cannot live. The women of Vrindavan are just like lilies growing hot in the sun of lusty desires, but moonlight Krishna makes them all jubilant by bestowing upon them the nectar of his hands. Oh, my dear friend, where is my moon now? Save my life by showing him to me. And then more and more, she's praising Krishna's different bodily features, different bodily qualities, his rupa, and then his form and his flute playing. Then she says, Krishna is the reservoir of art and culture, and he is the panacea that saves my life. Oh, my dear friend, since I live without him, who is the best among my friends? I condemn the duration of my life. I think that providence has cheated me in many ways. Why does providence continue the life of one who does not wish to live? This thought aroused anger and lamentation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then read a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam that chastises providence and makes an accusation against Krishna. And so this is 10:39:19 from this section of Bhagavatam. O providence, you have no mercy. You bring embodied souls together through friendship and affection, but before their desires are fulfilled, you separate them. Your activities are like foolish pranks of children. In Prabhupada's purport, he says that this was chanted by the gopis of Vrindavan when Krishna left. The gopis lamented that providence had made it possible for them to meet Krishna and Balaram in affection and love, and then separated them. So this is just a glimpse, you could say, of this intensity. There's this intensity going on, and Krishna is driving this intensity. And what happens? I mean, I think we all have been separated, because this is a concept that we all have at one point in our life. We're all old enough to have some separation of some loved ones in our life, you know, and some maybe more than others. But still, we all have that concept that, and I think also in another part of Krishna book, the description is that if you look at a river, you can learn from the river. So in the river, two sticks may come together and they're flowing down the river, and then all of a sudden they separate and never to be joined again. And that's what they're cursing providence, that, oh, you've brought us together. Somehow you've brought us together. We don't know how. And, you know, they don't care to look at that, because then that would break their ecstasy to think of, well, oh, you happen to be the greatest devotees of Krishna. They don't want to think like that. They're not thinking like that. They're just thinking, they're just so much in love with Krishna. So somehow we've come together, but now you're breaking us apart. And Jiva Goswami mentions that why was this different than the rasa dance separation or any other separation? And he explains that they would feel this anguish when Krishna would go to the forest every day. They would feel this separation, and they would just be and for them, and again, bringing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to this, Yugaitam Nimishena, every moment without you is like a yuga. So, you know, that's a long time, millions of years, 10 years. But even, you know, we could say, I remember, you know, it was a common saying that time heals all wounds. Is that still a saying that people, time heals all wounds. So the gopis would curse that as well. They would say, no, it doesn't. Because when they blink their eyes, they're feeling that that is like anguish. That is like just so horrible to be apart from Krishna for that blinking of the eye. What to speak of when Krishna goes to the forest every day? They still know somehow or other they've been used to the schedule. He's going to come back, but they completely forget that because it feels like years. When we have a friend, we have a loved one, and we haven't seen them in 10 years, 5 years, some years, we practically, they're not within our daily consciousness anymore. And then when we see them again, it's like, oh, it's almost like you're just meeting them again. And you're so happy that you have to learn all about them again. You have to, and it's all fresh and new. So this is how the gopis every day, not only the gopis, but every resident of Vrindavan, every moment they have with Krishna is a new and fresh experience, because every moment away from him is the time is just multiplying, and that it is such separation. Oh, and one of that Jiva Goswami says that made the stones cry out, dry wood shed tears, is that their question was, will he remember us? So that is, when you have a friend, a close friend, and you're saying goodbye, will you remember us? Will you remember me? Will I remember you? And that's like, wow, we have such a close relationship. Of course I would, but the fear is that we won't. Fear is that we won't. And you can see this. You can see the fear of separation coming into play as well. Sometimes when there's just talk, as Madhukanta, Snigdhakanta are there, they're saying, this is an old story, don't worry, Krishna's right there on your lap. But just by them even contemplating it, it brings great anguish of separation. And what to speak when they think, they're thinking, oh, when he goes to the forest, it's like, oh, it's so excruciating. Now he's going to Mathura, a whole nother city, with a city compared to Vrindavan. Now he's going there. They can't even conceive of what that separation would be like. So, these layers upon layers upon layers of different, and what can we understand? Our understanding, we're separate from Krishna because we've chosen to separate. And that swings now, we're going to take a very big, very quick swing to the end of Akura's prayers, where he's saying, I am just like all those others who have turned away from you. And I am focused on I and mine. I'm within this universe and I am like that. I too am deluded in this way, O Almighty Lord. So this separation is a different type of separation. This may be something more relatable to us because we are separate. It's a fact. We're separated from Krishna. We have separated ourselves from Krishna. And we foolishly think that my body, children, home, wife, husband, money, and followers to be real, though they're actually as unreal as a dream. And that is meaning that they are temporary. It's temporary according to this particular life in the body. Thus mistaking the temporary for the eternal, my body for myself, mistaking the temporary for the eternal, my body and for myself, the sources of misery for sources of happiness. So the body is a source of misery. We experience that, but we've mistaken it to be a source of pleasure. Let's feed it this, let's do this, let's have it engage in this. I mistake it for eternal, but I know it is temporary. I've tried to take pleasure in material dualities. Covered in this way by ignorance, I could not recognize you as the real object of my love. Just as a fool overlooks a body of water covered by the vegetation growing on it and chases a mirage, so I have turned away from you. So quite a contrast. But then he brings it to this, to where they're meeting again. There's a meeting again. The gopis are feeling separation because they cannot stop thinking of Krishna, even for a moment. Even when their eyes blink, they feel it's a separation, and they're constantly thinking of Krishna. We are mistaking ourselves, this body to be ourselves, and the pleasure of this body to be real and to be our focus. But then when we come around to understanding that, yes, there is no permanency in this material world, in this material body, in the endeavor for giving this material body what we feel it may need, then this awakens. My intelligence is so crippled that I cannot find the strength to curb my mind, which is disturbed by material desires and dragged here and there by my senses. Thus fallen, I am approaching your feet for shelter, O Lord, because although the impure can never attain your feet, I think it is nevertheless possible by your mercy. Only when one's material life has ceased, O lotus-naveled Lord, can one develop consciousness of you by serving your pure devotees. So this is really the point of Akrura's prayers. Yes, he glorifies Krishna as, the source of everything, and is also in his incarnations. But this is the real point, that he is surrendering to Krishna. He's realizing now that, and although when we hear about his journey to Vrindavan, it also seems that he has some knowledge of Krishna, but now seeing this little trick that Krishna played on him, that, I'm going to go take a bath, and then you stay on the chariot, goes take a bath. Oh, there's Krishna Balam. How are you here? Let me go back to see if they're back on the chariot. And then they're back on the chariot. And he goes back again, take back. Oh, now he sees them transform into this universal appearance. And so this is striking him. And he knows that now I must offer my obedience. Now everything I've heard about Krishna, everything I am directly seeing that he is not just this cowherd boy. He is of course, he's seeing on an Aishvarya level. He's seeing on Krishna's opulent side. So then he offers his obedience. But this mood of surrender. So ham tavagni upagato shma asatam dur. I am approaching your feet for shelter. This is the mood of, and these last 4 or 5 prayers are exactly the mood of Bhaktivinoda Sharanagati, where Buddhiya Tomara, the Tuhunata, all the songs in the first half, they're in this mood that I have turned away from you. I've separated myself from you, but I'm not feeling separation. But I know I am lost without you. Tuhunata, please give me, you're the fountainhead of mercy. You're the same. This is possible by your mercy. Tuhunata, karuna. That by your mercy, I can attain you again and come to that real awakening of my relationship with you. So there's so much more to be said on these, both the prayers of the gopis and the prayers of the Kura, but we won't stop for any questions, comments? Prashana. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhu. It seems like the river, the water, Jamuna is like a medium. When Krishna enters Vrindavan and when he exits, there's some kind of exchange. And the Vrindavan Krishna stays and Mathura Krishna kind of.
Yeah. I was trying to look up where.
Kicks in.
Yeah. Yamuna doesn't allow, yeah.
It's the water.
Yeah. Gopi.
Hey Krishna, thank you for the class. I don't remember the exact details because it was a very, very long time ago that I read this. But I believe some of the gopis, I don't know if they actually got locked up or if they warned each other that they would get locked up if they don't contain themselves when Krishna leaves. And then they said, you know, we don't care. We can go and visit each other at night, take each other some prasadam. We don't care about being locked up. They just couldn't help expressing those feelings at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, when the relationship with Krishna is alive and there's nothing that can separate you from that. So that may be some external visionary thing that we can say, well, okay, yeah, there's this impediment, you could say, to my being with Krishna. And our impediment, you know, it may not be that the doors that were locked up, but our impediment is our distractions and things like that. So whatever the impediment is, overcoming it to see Krishna is the focus of the devotee. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we're seeing here a lot of, separation, like you mentioned, that Krishna leaves the gopis and all the Brajvasis, and then Akrura is happy. He's coming to Mathura. He's going to stay with me. He's going to come to my house. I'm going to serve him. And then he just ditches Akrura, just go home. I'm going to do my own thing now without you. So he gets a little bit of a taste of what he's just done to the Brajvasis. But yeah, there's all this separation in Krishna's pastimes that's very, disappointing and painful for the devotees. So I'm just wondering, is it like that in Goloka, in the spiritual world as well? Because we hear that Goloka is like, the place where all desires are fulfilled. So is the desire to be with Krishna fulfilled there, or is there still?
From Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we get a sense that there's hints of these things that causes the separation, but the separation doesn't exist, actual separation. But there's hints of demon. The demon, they become afraid, they take shelter of Krishna. Of course, I mean, I have very little to draw upon in terms of realization of that. But another thought came to mind when you were saying that hearing of these is painful for the devotees, but is it? Or is it good for us? I mean, that's what Lord Chaitanya wanted to hear. I want to hear, this is what he went to. When he wanted to go deeper into his Krishna consciousness, of course, it's Krishna, it's right. Yeah. It's not like he needed to do this, but when he wanted to, this is what he went to. Oh, Akrura, so cruel, is pulling us away, pulling Krishna away from us. And so you could say, yeah, well, is that like masochism? Are we like, crazy, we're trying to hurt ourselves and always dwell and wallow in the pain? But the separation, when we hear the separation of these pure devotees, we can't help but think of, wow. And I'm more on the Akrura prayers where I separated myself, and I am in separation, but for a whole different reason, not to increase Krishna's pleasure, but for my own selfish motives. I've separated myself from Krishna. If I could get so let me hear of the true separation, because then and hopefully it'll prompt us to like, oh, well, I need to hear more and more about Krishna. Or there's Govinda, Damodar, Madhavati, that they're just, there's another one that they just wanted to keep chanting his glories. That was the only thing that really gave them any solace. And so we're so unfortunate that we don't have the pain, you could say. And so we hear these to get an inkling of what is it that these devotees have that make a nimation, a moment to be like 12 years or more. What is that? What, and so we have, Bhagavatam, we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes to teach us that this will help us divert our attention away from our accumulating and trying to satisfy these senses of which we are become illusion that is us, and we then try to think more and more about Krishna, and then that separation starts to become, we start to get a glimpse of it, just like when we're separated from a devotee. Over the weekend, I was, able to spend some time with a family who one of the devotees, one of them were leaving, and you could see the separation on the husband's face, and you could hear it in his cries, and you could see this intense separation of that we won't be together ever again, and seeing those goodbyes and seeing people coming saying goodbye, it's quite moving. And it can, it gives you, wow, yeah, that's a relationship I want. I want a relationship with Krishna like that. That if, for whatever reason, when there's separation, I cannot think of anything else. I mean, that's like, these are glimpses of separation. These are glimpses of those qualities of separation that they make you mad. And Lord Chaitanya would sometimes, you're this, but he said, if I had any love for Krishna, I wouldn't even be able to live in this body anymore. How could I be separated from Krishna if I had loved him? So all these things are kind of both sides. We hear about them, we become inspired by their devotion, and we can only imagine what that ardent attachment is that they have, that when they think there's a separation opportunity, or when there is separation, that they just can't function anymore, then we're, it kind of gives us a glimpse, oh wow, I have a lot to do. And then what is the very next chapter? The very last chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita is how we should chant Hare Krishna, the Shikshastra. Very humbly, so unfortunate that we have no taste for chanting. Very humbly, knowing that the chanting has the power to give us the white lotus within our heart can bloom, that love for Krishna can bloom, and then further and further, then the nimation, then without chanting of Hare Krishna, without this wonderful opportunity we have, without it, it would be horrible if we're ever separated from it. Last night I was with a few friends, and sometimes we'll pass around questions, and one of the questions, what is the greatest fear you've had in your life? And everybody had a lot of fears, like a lot of them were driving related, but I remembered deprogrammers and the fear of, if they would have caught me in their attempts, that was scary, to be taken away from the devotees. And so anything we can try to enhance our feelings of separation by being more intense in our service and more intense and so if we are away, if we have to visit we have to travel, even just like going in the car to work is like, it's like nobody there. It's like you're alone. It's like, all these little things. But then we fortunately have gadgets to help us here throughout all these times of separation. But there's nothing greater than when we're actually with other devotees and serving with other devotees. And the separation of that is like, I think you probably would all say it's unbearable. And that's just, we're just giving a glimpse, how unbearable it would be for our life if we didn't have devotees in it, and so I think I saw the light flashing. I think we're done. Right? So thank you very much. All those to Srila Prabhupada.